Welcome to 117 Traversing Turtles. This will be part one of a two-part series on this. Our goals are to learn to use a list to represent a collection of data, add and remove elements to and from a list, and use a for loop to iterate through elements of the list. You're learning something new here. You're learning two things, and I think the key parts are what is a list and what is a for loop. So pay attention to those things. That's your key part. Why do we use lists? Why do we have lists? List is basic. Then why do we have for loops? Like, why are for loops different than while loops? That's a key thing to understand. You're one of my, okay, so we're going to begin right here. The first 5 activities ask you to work with turtles and variables. So like, you're used to variables, and it's just, you have like one variable, and you can store one thing in it, right? But, and then, oh, I need to store 2 things, I need 2 variables. But, you know, I need 5 things, I need 5 variables, right? But what if those variables are kind of similar to each other? And, you know, it's like, maybe it's like a grocery item list or different types of animals. Cat, bird, dog. Animal 1 is cat. Animal 2 is dog. Animal 3 is bird. And what if, so we have this list of stuff. What if they're all similar and we just don't want to have separate variables? We can actually just create a list of variables, a list, and just put all of those things in one list. So it's like a variable in a way, but it can store multiple things. That's what a list is. It stores multiple variables, even different animals. A lot of times it's useful if like you have a bunch of information that you're trying to save, but they're all very similar to each other. So in Python, we group data types with a construct known as a list. And some other programming languages refer to similar types of data as an array. So if you're in a different programming language, they might call it an array, list, same idea. Python uses list. Anything can be grouped together in a list: numbers, words, fruits, animals, colors. So one thing unique to Python is you can just make a list and have all different data types. You can have 2, you can have like numbers put in there, decimal numbers put in there, integers, and strings mixed up. So it doesn't need to be like all one type. Certain languages would say, if you have a list, everything must be a string, or everything must be an integer. Python goes, I don't care. Mix it all up. Python likes chaos. This activity will create and manipulate multiple turtles in the same time using a list. Read the code in the editor below. Can you guess what it does? Okay, new list, and it goes dog, cat, mouse, bird, monkey. And it prints new list. So print just prints whatever in here. And what's in here is this list of things. So I just assume it's just going to print just like that. Maybe it just prints just like that. Let's see what it does. Okay. That's what it printed. Oh, but it also put the brackets in there too. Huh. With commas and with single quotes, not double quotes. Just printed the whole list like that. Okay. All at once. All right. So did it do what I expected? Kind of, but it printed differently than I expected. If you guessed it was going to display a list on the terminal, you were correct. The first line of the code created the list. You wanted the program to store it. Your new list. Variable name for the list is named new list. I don't like those underscores. I like doing this, right? But capital L, Python's way. Python just had that rule, like don't use lowercase l's and 1s because they look the same. And here they go breaking that rule. Or PLTW had that rule. Oh well. Rules are meant to be broken. You guess it's going to create a list. In this case, the variable name for the list is new list, where brackets contain all the items in the list. Each item is separated by a comma and called an element. So there you go. Key things here. Notice for list, we have these square brackets. And that should be so shiny. It's not parentheses, not the curvy ones like in print. Square brackets. Everything's separated by a comma, like when we're printing a list, a bunch of things. And then we put things in quotes if there's strings, whatever. Each item is separated by a comma and is called an element. These are elements, each element of a list. Second line of the code prints the list. So I'm going to put this as an example. My Python command. Learned this in 117. There was nothing in 116. And okay, this is going to be list. Oops, let me make it bold. List. Lists, I'm going to do my words. Lists are like groups of variables. Need square brackets around it. Separate by commas. Each item is called element of the item. The list is called element. Maybe that's better. I left an example. My reference. Creating a list. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, moving on. Oh, there's a video to play. Play my sound. What if you wanted your program to add an element to the end of a list? You can use this with the append command. Ooh, let's see how this goes. Oh, there's no sound. That's lame. Append to the end of a list. So we have this list. Oh, this is a neat application. Man. Okay, that shows you. Okay, if you didn't see that. Animal list.append. And you put line. And then adds it to the end of the list. Okay, that's kind of neat. So the variable is called the list is called animals underscore list. Animals underscore list dot append. And then in parentheses and then quotes line. We'll add a thing to the list. Cool. All right, so that's a new thing. Run the program, see how it adds line to the list. List is now, so list is that, appends line, list now is, and then blah. All right, we learned how to use append. Okay, so it's adds element to the list. Okay, it adds the element to the list. To the, I'm going to say the end. That'll be important, like the location of the list. I know it's going to be important later. The length of the list is increased by 1 and the value is placed at the end of the list. Okay, did they even use the word length before that? They just threw that out there. Okay, spoilers. The length of a list is a thing. That's what we say. How long is the list is how much stuff. So let's put that in there. Length. Oh, nope. Length of a list. Okay, so length is how many are in a list. So for example, the length of new would be 5. Okay. I think there's a command to see the length. We'll see that later. All right. Can you hear my keyboard typing? Hold on. Sometimes if I go crazy. This keyboard's loud. Okay. I should change the sensitivity. Oh well, I'm not doing it today. Okay, last item to be placed in the list. What if you wanted to get the last item that was placed on the list and remove it? Much like you would grab the top item out of a basket or bag. The pop method in Python removes the last element from a list and assigns it to a variable. Oh, really? Think of the pop method as popping an item off to the list. I didn't know this. This is something new to me. Never heard of pop. So dog, cat, mouse, bird, monkey, pop. The popped item was the monkey because it's the last item. So append adds something, pop, remove something. So if you want to just, although the example assigns a variable, you don't need to have it do so when you pop. In other words, you can just new list pop by itself. Watch this. So I can just do this, and I can just do pop. And if I just did 4 pops, it should just be left with pop, 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 left with dog. Yep. You keep popping. Now it has nothing. What if you pop again when there's nothing? Oh, it gives you an error. Oh, good to know. I was curious. Okay. So I kind of want to put this with append. Now I'm going to put it right below this. New list dot pop removes the rightmost item, not item, element from the list. And now I'm going to say this is item can also save the popped element variable. So I wanted to put that example in there just to remind myself that, hey, you can save the thing that's popped. No problem if your internet went out. Someone just showed up. Thank you for typing. I'm recording right now. Okay. Just kind of going through 117. Cool. All right, let's say, okay, so we can pop things. All right, we learned about a list. Okay, I'm kind of mad they didn't tell you what the length command is. I think, so I'm gonna just tell you. Maybe they do it later. I think this just tells you. If I go print, I think new list.length does it. No, it doesn't. Maybe you don't do parentheses. Oh, you have to do this. Do this. Oh, really? Okay. I know there's a way to get length. Okay, that's not how to do it. Sure, they'll tell us later. The for loop. Once you have a list, it's common for a program needs to repeat a task for each item in a list, right? So maybe we want to have a loop where we just do something to each item in the list. So this is very common. This is a very common use for what we call the for loop. For loop is similar to the while loop. It'll iterate through a sequence of code. So the idea, but the difference in for loop is that a for loop is always going to do it a certain number of times. You know, like kind of how I said, I wasn't during the video. The while loop, in our earlier examples, we'd say like count equals 0, and then we count up to like 5, make it loop 5 times. And that was when we wanted a while loop just to repeat 5 times. We did talk about infinite loops that just keep going forever. And we did say, hey, or we had those loops that kept going until the user put like an age in or something like that. So while loops, I think the benefit of those is that they can keep going on forever, or they can like choose to not loop at all, or they loop until the person does something. For loops are designed to loop only a certain number of times. It's usually for everything in a list. So I think for loops are better for cases where, probably better to use in cases where you want to loop a limited number of times and always loop like the same number of times. But probably better than while loops, but yeah, so that's a for loop. For loops are actually useful to going through a list. I think it's easier this way. While loop as well. The lists are good for when used on lists, the for loop receives each element of the list and assigns it to the loop variable. Okay, using the loop variable. So this is like, when I say loop variable, it's just a variable that's specific for that loop inside the for loop. Loop variable, you can have the program execute the same sequence of code. One example might be a sequence to print each element. So maybe I want to go through everything and print it. You'll see it. So here's how for loops work. Look, for variable in list, do this stuff. So the for is keyword and in is actually, so for whatever in, and so this is a variable we name. Okay, so this is important. This is important. This is our loop variable. So we might even not call it variable. We'll call it for I in the list. And list is whatever the name of the list. So this would be like new underscore list. And then you have the colon at the end. And then you tab, you indent, and then you just do however many lines, just like while loops. All right. This was a good, I kind of want to put this. This is like a little good slideshow. So what did I do for while loops? So I'm going to call this for how do you do that? For I hate you. Come on. For I in new list. Oh, not tab. And then this will be like do stuff here. Okay, lowercase. So this is how a for loop works. I'm gonna probably add more to this. 7. I'll highlight this. And I'll probably put an example in here. Nope. So let's examine this. What do you think this does? So I have a list for animal in new list, print animal. So I would say this should print each of these things. Oh, and it does. But notice it does it differently. It'll print each thing in a new line. So instead of before it was printing things with the brackets and the commas, kind of looked ugly. This will just boom, 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 boom down the line. That's nice. What's different about this output? Again, this one is, I would say, hey, doing each one of those. The for loop continues to execute as long as there's elements in the list, called iteration. So it iterates through each element on the list. It doesn't need to know, oh, do this 5 times like you had to do in a while loop. You'll just do it for the whole list. That's kind of nice. And the loop variable is animal. Okay. So I'm going to just put this as an example. Okay. Okay, add the following indented line to the code for below the for statement above the print animal. So I'm going to actually call this. Ignore this maze. We're playing. Okay, notice my text down here. So where does it say this? Oh, add the following indented line of code both below the for statement and above the print line. Okay. So I'm going to do this right there. Run your code. Okay, next animals, right? Next animal dog, next animal cat. 10 lines of output, 2 for each iteration loop. If you were to add 2 more print statements indented underneath the for statement, how many lines of output? Okay, if I added 2 more print statements, it should add 10 more lines, 10 times 2, or 2 times 5. How many lines of output? Okay, 20, because I thought I said how many lines added. Duh. I'm right. Looping with lists, the last thing. Lists and for loops go naturally together. You can create many elements to lists and process all of them in a small amount of time of code for for loops. This activity will create and process lists for turtles. Up until now, you've seen using the default shape of the turtles, arrow. Here you will loop through a list of other shapes and change your turtle's shape. Okay. Oh, yeah. Create a new file and call. Okay. 116. Come on, get that right. Okay, so I'm going to paste all this into my thing. What does it do? I'm running. Probably says, don't run it yet. Let's see what it does first. What? Whoa. Explore some of the new interesting parts of the code. Okay, so what's new? Okay, ooh, my turtles with empty brackets. What this does, it creates an empty list. So that's cool. I'm actually going to put that in my list. thing about lists. I'll actually put list. And there we go. Okay. Gate empty. I'll put that note. Double brackets, create an empty list. Okay. Good thing to know. 9 and 10. I create turtles shapes and turtles colors. Note I have a bunch of new shapes and a bunch of new colors. Ooh. New colors I get to know. My list of colors. Gold is a color. Didn't do that before. And all these shapes of turtles. Line 12 through 14 populates or adds items. So for each S, which is our just random variable we make in turtles, T equals turtle shapes S. So it's okay. New shape. And then this new list of my turtles, it's appending. Okay. So it looks like it's creating turtles. It's adding these as turtle shapes and adding it to this list. The for loop assigns loop variable S, iterates through all the shapes in the turtle shapes list. In each iteration loop, it's a shape from the list. Why does it? Okay, so it actually turns it into a turtle shape. Why can't I just use that straight up list? Why does it need? Kind of weird. And then this is just, go right, move arrows, lines, blah, blah, blah. Run this program and see what it does. Add comments in your own words at lines 16, 20, 26, describing what each section does. Okay, so at the hashtags. Okay, so we ran this. And that's the end of this. So I'll explain what I think. So it starts off, it gets all the different turtles. Boom, boom, boom. Triangle, turtle, circle, square. Arrow, turtle, circle, square, triangle, classic. Different colors. So far all it does, this right here. So this part in 16, this should be like, this tells it where to start drawing. The XY coordinates, where do you start drawing? So start X, start Y, where it's like starting off. That's probably why it starts like right there, 0, 0. What does this loop do? It draws a line. It goes to a spot. It rotates right, and then it goes forward. Okay, actually, so it goes to here, rotates right, draws forward. Okay, and then it increments this by 50. Oh, and then, oh, okay, so it's going to add 50, 50 to both. So it starts here, rotates right, rotates down here, and then goes forward. And then adds 50 to this, and it says go to here. How does it do? Wouldn't it just do that, jump right there? Wouldn't it draw that line? How does it not draw a line? I want to see it draw that again. Oh, it just, that's one thing. Repl.it just works so fast that it just draws it sometimes. Wow. So it goes to the position 0, 0, turns right and goes forward, and then it's here. Where does it actually draw the turtle? Oh, these are like separate turtles. Oh, folks, you know how we've been like drawing with one cursor this whole time? Now I get this. These are all separate cursors. And like this one went to here and it stopped. And then the next one's going to start here They all start here. You start at 0, 0. Then it moves up to here, and then turns right, goes forward, and stops. Then the next one started here, goes to here. Oh, so it's creating multiple turtles. They're all. I didn't know you could do that. Okay. So each turtle will do this sequence of commands. Moves out some distance, turns, goes forward, stops. So that kind of like this. This changes how far up and to the right the next turtle goes. Something like that. You have multiple turtles on the screen, huh? That's cool. Didn't know you could do that. Now I do. All right, that's it.